Okay, so before we go on and talk about ways we can encourage people, let's make sure we're all on the same page when we talk about encouragement. Because one of the things I have found in talking about and writing about and working with people on encouragement is that we may not always be talking about the same thing. And in fact, this has come up because people have said, I really try to be encouraging, but it doesn't seem to work. People take it the wrong way. People don't feel encouraged when I encourage them. I'm really bad at it. And the truth is, nobody is bad at encouraging when we know the right things, when we know what encouragement really is. The problem is that people use things they think are encouragement, which really aren't. And that is an important thing to remember too. When it comes to encouragement, no matter what your intent is, even if you have the very best of intentions, if someone doesn't feel encouraged, then that is not encouraging. Something is only encouraging if the person you are trying to encourage actually feels encouraged. And that may seem like a no-brainer, but there are people who really feel like they are being encouraging and others just don't accept it. And that's very rarely the case. What is happening is that people think they're being encouraging and they're actually using some other practices that are not as encouraging as they think they might be. So let's just look at a few of these. We're going to talk about things that encouragement is not, what encouragement is not. The very first thing that encouragement is not. Encouragement is not pithy little platitudes. Cute little sayings, things you find on bumper stickers and on your refrigerator magnets. In fact, things that may make very clever bumper stickers and refrigerator magnets are not often things that are usually good to use to encourage others. I'll give you a couple of examples. When you're at the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Not encouragement. So why is that not encouragement? Well, when people really are at the end of their rope, when people are in a stressful situation, when people feel like they're not going to make it, something like this sounds very trite, and what it comes off is you're dismissing the struggle they are going through, is you are not taking their struggle seriously, and you have come up with this quippy little saying that everybody knows, and in reality, it is not helpful when you really are at the end of your rope. It makes a cute poster for a classroom. It is not great advice when someone really is at the end of their rope. Another one, why worry when you can pray? Not encouraging. Okay, so why is this not encouraging? Well, a couple of reasons. One is, not only is this person worried and anxious, and chances are if they could have prayed it away, they would have already. But the other thing that it does, it's not only encouraging, it's harmful because basically you're attacking their faith and the quality of their faith. When you say, why worry when you can pray, and people have not been able to pray the worry and anxiety away, now they not only are worried and anxious, they feel like they're not faithful enough, that they don't have enough trust in God, that if their prayer life was deeper, that they could indeed pray this worry away. So why worry when you can pray? Not encouraging. I could go on and on. I'll just give one more. We all get the general idea here. Let go and let God. Great refrigerator magnet, not great advice for someone who's really struggling, for somebody who may be holding on to some tension or a problem or an issue. Again, if they could let go and let God, they already would have. And having you say that to them is not going to magically make it happen. And it kind of has the same effect that the pray comment has. It makes people feel like if they were just more faithful, if they were a better Christian, then they would be okay. So cute, quippy little sayings. Again, I love a good bumper sticker. I love a good refrigerator magnet. These are not the things we need to pull out when someone is really in need of encouragement, is really in a bad situation. They are struggling, they are grieving, they are anxious. Bumper sticker, religion, refrigerator magnet sayings, not helpful. So, encouragement is not pithy little platitudes. That's one thing encouragement is not. Another thing encouragement is not is nagging. And this has come up a lot. I have had people say, I try to be encouraging, but people just think I'm nagging. I'm really encouraging them, and they say I'm nagging. Once again, it's not encouragement if the person doesn't actually feel encouraged, no matter what your intention was or is. So here's a little thing to think about to make sure that your encouragement does not slip into nagging territory. And you may be a little confused. How can encouragement be confused with nagging? Yeah, my camera's shaking a little because my cat is walking across the table where I am filming. So thanks, Shoes. Thanks, Shoes the cat. Anyway, one of the ways encouragement can be nagging is when instead of encouraging that person, lifting up their gifts, lifting up their strengths, you start asking them about things that they haven't done. Now, it can sound like encouraging. Hey, have you done your homework? I'm encouraging you to do your homework. Actually, you're bugging me about doing my homework, is how it sounds. Hey, have you followed up on that job interview? Have you heard anything? If they have heard anything, they're going to let you know. Hey, you said you were going to start running again. Have you started? You should really start. That doesn't come off as encouraging. It might feel like it to you, but it sounds like nagging to the person it is directed to. So here's some things you can think about when you're trying to decide, am I nagging or am I encouraging? Encouragement is always about the other person, lifting up their strengths and their gifts, identifying their needs. So again, when we're encouraging people, we are lifting up what they're good at. We are lifting up their strengths. We are thinking about what they need to hear and how we can offer that to them. Now, when that comes into nagging is about what you're feeling, what you want to see happen, what you think that other person should be doing or feeling. Nagging is often just projecting your desires, your wants, your feelings about this person's life onto them, rather than encouraging them to become the person God has called them to be. So that's just something to pay attention to when you are being intentional about encouraging others. Make sure you are making it about them and what they need, and not about you and what you need. And that is tempting to do sometimes because we all have things we want for other people. But if they don't want those things for themselves, if we try to encourage them in that direction, it is always going to come off as nagging. And hey, there may be times when we need to nag. Hey, have you done your homework? You really need to do that homework. Hey, have you followed up on that job interview? You should really do that. And that is fine. There are times when nagging is called for. We just don't want to confuse it with encouragement. So another thing encouragement is not, is it is not always called for. Encouragement is not always called for. There are times when life is so hurtful and so tragic and so awful that to come in and to try to offer an encouraging word is incredibly tone deaf, and it can be really harmful. I will tell you that I know more than one person who has left the church, who has left a faith life entirely because in the midst of them grieving a tragic loss, someone has come up and said, this is all just part of God's plan. And while that person meant to be encouraging and comforting, how the person took it was, what? I don't want any part of a God whose plan includes having my daughter die in a car accident, having my wife die from cancer. There are times when encouragement is not called for. And in those times, the way you can encourage or comfort a person the best is to just be present with them. You don't always have to say something. You don't always have to do something. You can just be present with them. We can all take our cue on this from Alice in Wonderland. When you can't look on the bright side, I will sit with you in the dark. Sometimes sitting with someone in their darkness, being there for them, is the most encouraging thing you can do. One more thing that encouragement is not, or that it does not do, and that is encouragement does not ignore pain. It does not ignore suffering. It does not ignore that life is hard. Encouragement does not go through life with rose-colored glasses and some Pollyanna, everything's going to be okay attitude. Encouragement sits with people in their pain, acknowledges people's pain, and says, you know what, I'm here. You know what, I believe in you. Hey, what can I do to help? So encouragement never glosses over or ignores that people are in real pain, that people are having real struggles. That encouragement offers hope and support in the midst of those struggles. So, encouragement is not platitudes. Encouragement is not nagging. Encouragement is not always called for. These are the things encouragement is not. One more thing encouragement is not that I will share, and without trying to stereotype people, it is particularly true for Southerners and particularly true for Southern women, and I can say that because I am one. One more thing that encouragement is not. Encouragement is not criticism cloaked in kindness. And we Southerners, we don't like to overtly criticize people. We like to make it as kind as possible. That's just how we were raised. That's how we're oriented. But don't mistake that for encouragement. When you tell somebody, oh, that's just probably not one of your gifts, you may feel like you're encouraging them by letting them off the hook. They don't have to arrange the flowers at church anymore because that's just not one of their gifts. And honestly, I have encountered people who feel like that is encouraging, to let people know that something is not one of their gifts, and so they're off the hook for that particular thing. There are a number of ways we do it. You all know. So there are times, and I do like to cloak criticism in kindness. In fact, I take my notes from my friend who is a kindergarten teacher, and she always does a compliment sandwich when she's talking with parents. There's a compliment, and then there's a critique, and then there's a compliment. Little Billy is great at sharing his crayons with others. You know, Billy could really work on sitting still in class, and you know, he's really grown in his artwork. Have you seen some of it? It's wonderful. That's also how I like to, not that I treat people like kindergartners, I hope not. But anyway, once again, when we are cloaking criticism in kindness, that is not encouragement. That is something else entirely. Hey, me again. Just a couple more things. After I was looking over this video, I just wanted to make sure that after seeing this, that you aren't discouraged from being encouraging for fear that you might do it wrong. I am not a perfectionist type person. However, I know many people who are, and some of you may be. So don't let perfectionism get in the way of being an encourager. Don't be too worried that you're not going to do it right or you're going to say the wrong thing stop you from working at being an intentional encourager. I think we get it right far more often than we get it wrong. And then in the same vein, and I was hesitant to talk about this because honestly, each of these things could be a whole workshop retreat in its own right. But if you are somebody who subscribes to, follows personality types, maybe like the 5 love languages, the Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram, and if you are an Enneagram person, please forgive me for lumping the Enneagram together with these other things. I know you probably find that slightly offensive, but all of these different ways of looking at all of them are different ways of looking at how people perceive the world, how they react to things. And so if you do follow and are familiar with the love languages, the Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram, or other kinds of personality typing, each of those types has different ways, has different things that will encourage them. So if there is someone in particular that you feel like needs encouraging, and you do know what their love language, what their Myers-Briggs letters are, what their Enneagram is, that may help you in knowing just the right way to do so. So if none of those things sound familiar to you, just forget that I said anything, because like I said, that's a whole other workshop. But if they are familiar to you, please keep that in mind. So we're going to go into our groups again right quick and have a few discussions. And then we're going to come back and we are going to talk about ways that you can encourage people. And I think you're going to discover some things you hadn't thought of before.